This week on Half Step Down, Renee and I are talking anime, those weird, wacky, and wonderful cartoons from the Far East. We're going to talk about how they make us feel uncomfortable as men in their 30s watching teenage girls save the world. We're going to talk about how the fandom has completely embraced its inner degeneracy, and it is now okay with being the totally weird kid on the block. But before we get to that, let's talk about halfstepdownpod.com. That is your one-stop shop for all things Half Step Down. I want to remind you guys to follow us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. Look us up, Half Step Down Pod on there. And then finally, make sure you look us up on YouTube and subscribe. We're trying to get 100 subscribers so that we can have a custom URL. That way you don't have to scroll down for like an hour before you find our show. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was a fun one. It's going to get weird. And for whatever reason, I clear my throat a lot. Sorry about that. Half Step Down starts now.
Rolling? Keep rolling.
Oh my God.
Keep rolling. Every time I think of that song, I think of The Undertaker. Did you watch wrestling at that time? The Attitude Era? Like the late Attitude Era when The Undertaker turned into like an American badass who was driving out with his motorcycle? You weren't watching at that time?
I was not. Dude, I got out of wrestling after Hulk Hogan. Man.
So The Undertaker, after his whole goth thing, he turned into this American badass. This dude with like a bandana, sunglasses. He'd write down. Well, I'm gonna see if I can find an image. I'm gonna show it to you.
American badass.
He was the American badass Undertaker, and he would come down on a Harley, and he came out to Rollin' by Limp Bizkit at some point, and he also came out to American Badass by Kid Rock.
Really?
Yes.
I wasn't aware of this.
You have to watch that. That was awesome. That was a great character change for him too at the time.
The only thing I know about the Attitude Era is the shirts. There's so many Stone Cold Steve Austin shirts that I saw.
The flaming skull or the smoking skull. Yeah. And The Rock.
Everybody knows
The Rock.
I remember
right?
The Rock, yes.
Rock the Dwayne Johnson. Welcome everyone to Half Step Down, where two aging punk rockers talk about punk rock and pop culture. We are your hosts, Renee Grano and Jose Martinez. How are you today?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a bit.
It's been a little bit. It's been a while. But you know what? I'm glad we're back together here. The state reopened a few days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels good to see that everything's going to be somewhat pseudo-normal now, so I like it. I like the concept of being able to do things.
I like that concept, too. It's kind of weird, but I like it.
Yes. I went to Norm's, the one right here up the street. I went to Norm's with a couple friends of mine. We went to our local game store to play some Commander there, some Magic the Gathering. And it was super cool because it was the day that everything reopened. I spoke to the owner a few week back, and he only has like 3-4 tables, and right, they're all they're all separated. He goes, the only thing you have to do is just wear your mask at all times. Cool. So it just felt good to be able to like hang out with my friends who are all vaccinated and just play cards and hang out. And they were like, well, let's go to Norm's. We're hungry. I said, all right, let's go to Norm's. And when we go to Norm's, we were when you walk in, instead of waiting for your seat, you have to order there,
right,
at the front, and then you have to, then you go sit, and then they give you everything's in plastic, like your plastic plates, your plastic forks, plastic cups, everything, right? But before we get there, I had told my friends, I go, it felt so good to feel pseudo normal. And he goes, yeah, I really did, man. It feels great, the fact that we're just being able to hang out. And then I told them, it's really funny how a year and a half ago, we were able to just wait for this table and then go sit, and now it feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
A year and a half ago, just like being normal back then just feels weird now.
Yeah, it's a strange time we're living in, man.
Yes, yeah, but hopefully things, hopefully everything works out. That's what we're hoping for, right?
That for sure.
But speaking of abnormal, it's a good segue into our topic for today's show.
It's excellent.
Which is anime and the degeneracy and the complete 180 of anime over the last, what would you say, decade or so?
Yeah, you know what? I want to say that this has been coming for a long time, but it's happened.
Yeah. So, Jose, why don't you explain to the folks, to the wonderful audience of the Half Step Down podcast, if they don't know, what is anime?
Okay, so before I even do that, I'm gonna hit everyone with a warning here, because anime fans are notorious for picking things apart. We might say some things that they don't think are accurate.
Yeah.
So, but whatever, it's our show.
Yes,
correct.
But
basically, anime is animation that's produced in Japan. Think of your Sailor Moons. If you want to go back even further, stuff like Speed Racer, Gotcha Man, Robotech. It goes all the way back to even like what's that little robot? God, they made a movie about it. It was like the first anime character, Astro Boy.
Oh, Astro Boy. Yes.
So going all the way back to that. So just basically animation out of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Silence. Sorry.
Was that all?
Yeah,
I thought there was more to. I thought there was more to hear.
So I was like, that's what it is.
Okay.
And I'll edit that long pause.
Okay. I was unaware that there was a talking point for me there. Sorry.
No.
I'm looking at her notes. I'm like, wait a minute, is that it?
So then,
this is professional podcasting. Professional podcasting.
So here's why I wanted to talk about it.
Okay. Let's go back a bit.
Okay.
Jose, so why did you choose anime?
Okay. So I want to say I've been a fan of anime since the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. About 5 years ago, I kind of fell off.
Okay.
Not completely. Just because anime, for those of you who don't know, it just like regular TV, it goes out by season. But whereas in America, you have the fall season and the summer season.
Mm-hmm.
Anime goes by the seasons of the year, fall,
by
winter,
quarters,
right?
Yeah,
by quarters.
And you get
right?
about 40 to 50 new animes.
Exactly. You get like sometimes up to 50 new shows,
Yes.
movies, whatever per season,
Yes.
right? So it's overwhelming. On top of the fact that as a kid, the thing that drew me to anime was it's violent.
Mm-hmm.
It's like adult themed in the sense that it's like more mature content. It looked more like an R-rated action movie than the cartoons I was used to. And as it slowly progressed, and things like the Sailor Moon kind of aesthetic, the schoolgirl thing, it slowly has shifted from this kind of edgy, I want to say like ultra-violent kind of action movie aesthetic to, I don't know how you... As an outsider, because you would say you're not totally in the scene, right? Or you don't really know much about anime?
Yeah, so I would say I have watched some anime growing up, and I watch some anime now. Like the last one I watched was, which I'll do recommendation for later, is The Devil is a Part-Timer.
Mm-hmm.
But before then, I've seen things like... we have things like Attack on Titan, My Hero Academia, things that I didn't realize were so big phenomenons until we started talking about this. Until we decided to say, okay, let's do one on anime. So what I like about this is the fact that there's like two sides of the coin to this episode, because you have what I would think, Jose, you're more of a anime connoisseur, to where I am on the other side there, where I know what anime is. I enjoy anime, not as much as some other people, but I wouldn't be able to tell you the differences in genre. The only one I know is like slice of life, right? Compared to, the stuff that I just know, like your Sailor Moon is one of my favorite animes.
But
like that. But yeah, I would to make a long story short, it is I would say not really into anime.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but based on what I described as what got me into it in the 90s.
Yes.
Is that what you see now?
That's how I was I was introduced to anime through Toonami.
Okay.
So Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball, right?
A lot of people, yeah.
So from what I see now, it's definitely a lot more. Is action-packed the right way to say it? Is it a lot more action-packed now than what it was before? Or is it a lot weirder? Because there's some stuff that I've seen, I'm like, this is weird.
So here's where I've kind of come. This is where I decided this would be an interesting episode, because even though I don't watch as much as I used to, I still kind of follow the scene.
Mm-hmm.
I follow the blogs, I follow the news, like Anime News Network and Crunchyroll.
It's kind of like me in pro wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't watch a lot of pro wrestling. I do watch AEW, but I keep up on everything else.
Yeah, I've got my toe in there.
Mm-hmm.
And as it's gone, in the past couple of years, the fandom around it, the Weebs, let's just call them, it's getting out of control.
Okay.
And I think I told you that the reason I wanted to do this is because I feel like Weebs, anime fans, have essentially become the juggalos of nerds.
Is that what they're called? Weebs?
Weebs, yes.
Oh, okay. Is that short for something?
Weeaboo, which is someone who basically embraces anime culture and Japanese culture to the point to where they almost forget themselves.
Okay.
It's if you ever see a non-Japanese person use Japanese words like I think what is nani, and they do that, you're probably talking to a weeb.
Huh. Okay.
We're talking the body pillow, walls just covered in wall scrolls.
Somebody who's just in love with the Asian culture is what we're talking about?
Not necessarily.
No. Or just the animation, like
here's
anime?
This is something I got into an argument with a student at my old school about. This is funny. Because they're like, well, I know all about Japanese culture because I watch so much anime. And I had to explain to them, saying that you know Japanese culture because you watch anime is kind of like saying you know American culture because you listen to punk rock.
Yeah.
It's a small piece of a much bigger whole.
Yeah.
Japanese culture, from what I understand, now granted I'm not an expert, is a much more conservative being than what you see in most anime, right?
I think they have like specific restrictive. Wow, I don't know what I just said there.
No, it's okay.
Restrictive sex laws, I believe. I was speaking to a friend of mine. He was mentioning that some sort of restrictive sex laws in Japan. That's why you see a lot of like a lot of very sexual, like niche things in anime when it comes to stuff like that. So I never looked that up, but I just found that interesting. That I was like, oh, if that's a thing, that's interesting. You know.
So this is where it's starting to get.
It's an extension, right?
Yeah. This is where it's definitely a reaction to that, right? There's this line that's being crossed where it's like the schoolgirl aesthetic, the weird kind of sexualization of women is getting to a level that is almost like it's over the line, right? And it's becoming like really acceptable, and like I personally think, and like I'm calling it now, that there's going to be like a reckoning for the fandom and for anime coming in, because they get away with a lot of shit. Yeah. Like if you were to take a live action show and put those characters in the same situation that anime gets put in, that everyone would be going to jail. Yeah.
It's funny because it's not an anime, but like Battle Royale, where you have a bunch of 7th graders, dueling for the death. Like, that's something you wouldn't see now. Is that a Japanese culture thing that I feel that you would see? I mean, outside of Western film, like if you go that way, if you go east, I think is that something that's out of the ordinary? Or is that like, because I do know that the Hunger Games is essentially based on Battle Royale.
Yeah, I mean, the Hunger Games is basically an American version.
Yeah, an American version of it, right?
So what I'll say about that is, I do know that in Japanese culture, from what I've seen, they really tend to value like younger people. Yeah. But that borderlines on very creepy. Yeah. Right. You're talking about like idol culture. Japan has junior idols that are like under 14, which is just a really weird thing where like these grown men will go watch these girls sing. Yeah. And basically now, I think the kids call it simping. Yeah. But it's like these older men. Yeah. And it's just a really weird thing. But like in America now, that kind of weirdness has been embraced by the community, to the point to where you've got like, I think you mentioned it in you had kind of talked to your friend, those like the sweaters with the girls' faces. Yes. Yeah. Why don't you talk? Because you said you talked to someone.
Yeah. I
mentioned
did.
that.
I
it's
did.
Weird.
So I spoke to a friend of mine who goes by Simpin at Simpin_for Nissa NISSA on TikTok. He's a Magic the Gathering content creator, and he also does a lot of anime stuff as well. Amazing stuff. If you guys ever have a chance to go check him out on TikTok at Simpin for Nissa. So what I had talked to him because outside of you, he's probably the other guy that I know that really is involved with the anime culture. And I had asked him, I go, what is it about anime that makes it that has completely turned itself into like this 180 and just becomes like this, has in some way gone degenerate, right? In specific styles or genres of anime. And he goes, it's because, and I'm not saying this verbatim, but he did say, it is because our generation, speaking of your, his, mine, and yours, Jose, speaking of, we made it acceptable to watch anime and not have to hide it. Now, but that's a good thing. That's a positive thing for anime here here on the west side, is because we are able. I was like at a loss for words. I had no idea how to say it. But thank you for the Western Hemisphere, I guess you could say, right? Is that now that younger generations, now that we've made it socially acceptable to enjoy anime and be open to it, these younger generations now have turned it into mainstream. And just like you said when we spoke earlier, rappers, punk rockers, they've embraced the anime culture, and that's something that we have done for them, and now that the younger generation has done. But now, turning it on its side is, now you have these people, for example, having these sweater, like these hoodies of like this girl with, saliva coming down her tongue, and just like this really out of ordinary sweater, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Because it's become such a big phenomenon here in the United States that it's okay for you to be that kind of guy, or that kind of person that's into
I think it comes from a couple things. So, like I was describing at the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
In the 80s and 90s, you really did not have access to anime in the States.
Nope.
Right? So the things that would get brought over were picked by companies that were like, I think a Western audience would like this. Mm-hmm. Okay. In the early 2000s, once the internet became a thing that was like readily accessible, that's when you started to see fan subs, which is basically somebody in Japan would film it off TV. People in the United States would translate it for you, and then you would just download it illegally. Mm-hmm. And just like, I think like Game of Thrones, they talked about how they didn't care that people pirated it because it basically made the show bigger.
Yeah. Well, wasn't it one of the seasons where they pirated 6 episodes at once?
Yeah. Like before they were released.
Yeah, before they were even released. Or like when episode 1 was, there was 8 of them out already or something like that. We're responsible for watching like 7 of those episodes in one night.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But now that you have access to everything, you kind of can see the stuff that maybe wasn't making it to the States.
Yeah.
And people really started to gravitate towards it. And yeah, people like, rap has a love affair with Dragon Ball Z. Mm-hmm. They talk about it all the time. You've got artists like Thundercat who are always talking about anime. Yeah. There's even some guy in the UFC who does the Naruto, I don't know what it is, the finger, I think they're called ninja something.
Yeah.
He does it before fights. Like, he does all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just become bigger and bigger and bigger. But as a result, that weird degenerate side, and I think it's also got something to do with the fact that not everyone knows what it is.
Yeah.
So with those sweaters, I've seen like memes online where it's like, you know what that sweater is, but if you call that person out on it, you admit to knowing what it is.
Yeah, I think it's called he pronounced it to me Aigo.
Yeah.
Aigo.
So
right? Yeah.
Basically, it's what you described,
Yeah.
and what the sweater is not showing you is that basically the girl is getting railed.
Yeah.
Like in a really just over the top way.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just kind of like this
how
thing.
How more over the top can you get with saliva coming down your mouth?
Dude.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. This is where I'm starting to say that it's getting really out of line.
Yeah.
Because it's getting to a point to where, and we're gonna play this game later. In the last couple seasons of the anime that have come out, there have been a couple titles where you'll get these big red flags of like, people are like, dude, this is straight pornography.
Yeah.
Like, and the style in which it's kind of going is to the point where it's like, some of this is like torture shit.
Yeah.
And people are like, are these anime creators just pushing the boundary to see how far it goes?
Yeah.
And are they making it knowing that there are these weebs all over the world who are just going to buy this shit up.
Now, I have an interesting question for you. I just thought about it now. Is it self-expression when you wear those kind of things? And by that I'm saying, I'll give you a good example. If you have, for example, somebody who is into hentai, right?
Right.
And hentai is essentially anime porn.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody who's into hentai, or somebody who likes the idea of like High School Rumble. Remember High School Rumble?
I remember.
Okay, so let's just say they put these I don't know, these animations on like card sleeves. I always go back to Magic because I play that a lot.
Yeah.
Or play mats, or mouse pads,
right.
or a T-shirt, or a sticker. It's easy for you to be like, man, like that dude. The first thing that more than likely things that would pop into your head would be like, that's crazy. This guy's a weirdo. This guy's a weirdo or something, right? Yeah. But it's self-expression. But when is enough? Like when is hentai on like a playmat or something just like, okay, dude, like that's, you just have some chick with big tits on this thing.
Yeah.
And like when do we stop that, right?
Yeah, it's one of those great kind of weird things. It's like I mean, obviously self-expression is whatever you want it to be, right?
And as long as you can turn the other way,
right.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. However, the guy that's going to have a shirt with something like that on, are they going to be walking around with like, I don't know, like a Riley Reid shirt on or whatever? Like, would you be walking around with Peter North on your shirt?
Yeah.
You
me personally would be more of like a Johnny Sins kind of guy.
Did you see?
Just saying.
Did you see on
that dude? No, just eyebrows. That's it. He's bald from the head down, leaving the eyebrows. That's kudos. And that dude has like a 12-pack on his 6-pack. That dude. Kudos to Johnny Sin. I don't think I've ever seen somebody else that just looks rad with a bandana and a bald head than that dude. It's like, wow, if you're not riding a Harley, then you're just rad as shit.
There was a meme on ESPN. It was this kid who was in like the Little League World Series. And they asked him favorite actor, and he said Johnny Sins. And ESPN was like, legend. Like, this kid is a legend. This is like 12.
Oh my god.
They just straight up printed it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my god.
Dude.
But it's like, yeah, like would you walk around with that on your shirt?
Well, I mean, I'm a big Sins fan since day one. Right. You know, come on. How are you trying to tell me? But I understand what you're saying. I get it. That's you know, self-expression is kind of hard to define, like when something is obscure or obscene, right? Because then that's not really declared self-expression. But as long as you can like turn the other way, then I think it's okay. But
the thing I think about it though is I don't know if it's so much self-expression, as it is. This is an inside joke.
Yeah.
It's a meme. It's like a living meme.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to get her. I'm gonna get you a Peter North shirt. I'm gonna get myself a Johnny Sin shirt.
And we should just do it.
Okay. And see how many people. You know what I wanted to do?
Can you even buy those? Do you think they exist? They have to.
If not, then we're gonna have to make some ourselves.
Right.
One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to download the Pornhub theme song on my phone for text messages, and I want to have it like the loudest when I'm like in a public area, and whenever it goes dun, 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 I want to see how many people look at me.
There is so among the drumming community, the Pornhub intro, that little beat, is
let me do it again.
But there's this drum beat to it. One of the things that drummers like to do is sneak it into things.
Yeah.
And there's this drummer. He's a jazz drummer. I think his name is Zach Grooves. I'm gonna look him up right now. But he's basically a classically trained jazz drummer. And he has a video called "I Almost Failed My Senior Recital," like his final recital. Because obviously it's jazz.
Yeah.
You get to take your solo right when it's your turn. The band is going. They go to his solo. He stops. He sneaks it in, and then immediately goes into a jazz. And you can see, like in the video, everyone just looks at him like, "You little piece of shit." And he's like, and he talks about the
funniest part.
And he talks about how he's like, "I almost failed my like 4 years of music school because I wanted to just sneak this thing in."
It's so funny because I want to see how many people would turn their heads when that pops up like as a text tone, and you just like, yeah, like with their thumbs. How many people are like, dude, the dude got me. I got caught red-handed with my girlfriend. Like now she knows.
Those are the kind of guys.
Orange and Black website is something I've heard.
Those are the kind of guys that hit the share button on those videos
all day.
The share button for Facebook.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I have a cousin. And just nonchalantly, he was. We were going to lunch, I think, at this Chinese restaurant, not up the street, a few years back. But I'll never forget it. It's engraved in my head because he was in the front seat. I was in the back. Another cousin of ours was driving, and he goes, "Yeah, I'm on this Facebook group, and it's called Sucios." And for those of you who don't know, sucio is dirty, right?
In Spanish.
In Spanish. And a dirty guy, basically. And he goes, yeah, I'm on this thing called Sucios. And he just made me laugh so hard. And every time I say, I'm like, hey, bro, you still on that Sucios group page or what? He's like, yeah. He goes, oh, you're on it? And I was like, no, I'm not on it. I just remember that you talk about it. He goes, yeah. He goes, they're crazy. I was like, I guess they're crazy enough for you to stick to it. But, yeah, that's a good one. But coming back to, let's circle it back to the anime here. Something else that I wanted to mention before I forget is the idea of this degeneracy is kind of sprinkled into every type of genre of animes, from what I'm told. Now, slice of life of life anime is essentially from what I can fathom here. It's like a Boy Meets World in animated, or like an animated Boy Meets World, or like an animated Dawson's Creek, or right, like slice, right?
Yeah.
So there is, my buddy was telling me, again, at Simpin Fernissa on TikTok, he was telling me that there was a slice of life anime that he started watching on some streaming service, and he said that with like the fourth episode, he explained the synopsis to me, and then he talks about how the very first part of this 2 minutes of this opening scene is like a flashback of the girl that's part of the show, and she's getting like she's sleeping with some dude, but in the middle of it he's just enjoying this thing, and he tells her, are you loving this, or like, are you enjoying this? And she's just like, yeah, but very nonchalant. Obviously watching the episode you can say that she's not enjoying it. And he looks at it, he goes, this has nothing to do with the plot. Like, what does this have to do with the plot? Now, what I was trying to explain to him, what I think is, now with all the streaming services coming out, you got HBO Max, Hulu, the Paramount streaming service, the list goes on and on, right? Netflix. Everybody has their hand in the anime pot now, right? Now, we talked about this off air, but I feel that anime is now becoming the Hollywood of animation. And at the end of the day, Jose, sex sells, right? Like, sex just sells.
Yeah.
So if you can hit sex appeal in any way, shape, or form to get these younger audiences, these younger, I'm assuming that the key demo is probably younger adults, right? Like young males. And
yeah, I mean, well, keep going, and then I'll make my point.
So it's, what other way to do it than to have some sort of sex appeal? There's times where I've seen, like, for example, I've seen films, I'm like, well, this sex scene has nothing to do with the film. For example, when you think of American Pie, the only two things you're going to think of is Jason Biggs boning a pie,
Right.
And then Shannon Elizabeth being nude, right, in the movie.
Right.
That's
right.
the only two things that people are going to remember.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was my thing that I had mentioned to him, and he goes, "You know what? You're absolutely right. It's that, but at the same time, you also have those people like we were talking about earlier who have that like DGAF mentality who are going to wear whatever they want too. You know?
What is D? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
So
don't give a fuck, right?
yes,
Okay.
correct.
DGAF. I didn't
Yeah.
know what DGAF was.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the thing about that. Because you're right, sex sells. Okay. Anime has this interesting duality to it that I think is kind of its saving grace, but also the thing that makes it weird. Okay. I asked you off the air if you knew what the Bechdel test was. You know what the Bechdel test is?
I do not.
Okay, so the Bechdel test.
I thought I had an idea, but then you were talk about it. I was like, oh no, that's not what. That's a different test.
So the Bechdel test was created by a cartoonist. I think her name was Alison Bechdel, and she created a comic strip where
That's Johnny Sin's neighbor.
is it Johnny Sin's name? The comic strip was about lesbians. I think it was like in the 80s. But she said the comic strip was talking about how this woman had rules for going to see a movie or any piece of fiction to see if females were represented properly. The rules go like this. Is there more than one woman in the film? Okay. If you say yes, you move on to the next step. Do they talk to each other? Yes. Move on to the next step. Is it about men or something else? So if you've got more than one woman and they talk to each other and it doesn't have to do with a man, you're passing the Bechdel exam or the Bechdel test. And according to certain websites, I don't know, I can't verify. There are a lot of movies that do not pass the Bechdel test.
The first one that popped into my mind was When Harry Met Sally.
Okay.
Yeah, because you had Meg Ryan, Carrie Fisher, and the other actress. And they're all speaking to each other at a table, and now they're talking about his men and
right?
relationships. Yeah.
In the comic strip that originally came out, the character said the last movie I saw was Alien, and I think that the comic came out like in the early '90s. So it's like, again, I have no way of confirming that because it's like a openly edited forum. But I do know that I've seen a lot of people like these. Especially like Disney's really guilty of that. A lot of these films don't pass that test. Yeah. Anime passes that test all the time. Yeah. Because you've got entire series where there are maybe only 2 male characters and there's like 10 female ones. Yeah. So I think one of the things it has going for it is I know a lot of young girls that like anime. Like from middle school, like in high school, it's very common to see girls who are super into anime, manga, they're constantly reading. And I think it has to do with the fact that it's like, yeah, man, this is a genre of media where it basically focuses on young girls, right? They're the main characters. They solve all their own problems. They're not always talking about boys, and it like they can be the hero. You can get whatever you want. So you have that on the positive end, right? But on the negative end, or let's not even call it a negative, but on the other side, where the degeneracy kind of kicks in, is like, you'll have a series that's a slice of life that's overall pretty innocent. But then you're going to have the episode where they go to the beach. Yeah. And they're all in bikinis. Yes. And one thing anime is really known for is just really weird upskirty camera angles that really, like, it's hard to overlook. And I've seen a bunch of articles talking about how the older you get, the harder it is for you to watch anime because it becomes so weird and creepy. One of my absolute favorite series of the past.
That must be tough for us, for 2 guys who love Ren and Stimpy.
Right. Right. Yeah.
You know, I think if you can show somebody Ren and Stimpy, I'm pretty sure you can. Well, I don't know, because anime is, I've seen some anime that's pretty intense.
There have been a couple where I've been
so I'm like, well, Ren and Stimpy's G-rated compared to this.
I mean, there are some series where it's even if the show doesn't have, you know, your go-to beach episode, there's promotional artwork with the girls in bikinis. There's the figures of the girls in bikinis. Like, it's all kind of lumped together.
Are you guilty of buying some of those bikini statues at all?
I had a bunch 10 years ago. I sold them all when I got married because I just like, dude, I'm gonna have kids. I can't have these and that. But I had a couple. But I'm like, all right, whatever, like, my time is done. I sold them. But And like the way I was like, well, you know, like I had Gen 13 statue, right? Gen 13, that's just basically a woman in a bikini. I have a Wonder Woman action figure. That's a woman in basically a one-piece bathing suit, right? The difference is, like, it's just Wonder Woman is clearly a woman, right? You know what I mean? Like she's older. Anime is weird like that. So on the one hand, you have representation for young girls, which they normally don't get. And on the other hand, it's like, well, it's also kind of appealing to older men. Sailor Moon is a perfect example of that, right? That whole anime is about these group of women who are, if you watch the show, it gets into some dark, deep shit.
It does.
People die. It deals with a lot of fucking heavy shit. But at the same time, you're talking about a group of up to like 12 girls who are fighting crimes in very short pleated miniskirt. It's weird, right?
It's so funny because growing up, that was the one show that I felt weird talking to my friends about, because I was the only one that was quote unquote into anime. Well, anything that wasn't Dragon Ball Z was kind of was kind of was kind of not forbidden, but just was taboo, right? And so as I got older, I was like, oh man, Sailor Moon's rad, and I started showing my nephew Sailor Moon, and like, nah, it's not really our thing. I said, all right, it is what it is. A couple weeks ago, my nephew goes, hey, have you seen my Sailor Moon shirt? I was like, well, since when do you have a Sailor Moon shirt? He goes, oh, because it looks awesome. I was like, sure. It's the fact that these anime things are still in the forefront, of pop culture and like mainstream is pretty awesome, Even so, even outside of the fact that it can be, obtuse at times or like just out of the blue, out of the ordinary, it's still pretty cool that it is where it is. You know what I mean?
I think overall it's a positive thing, right? There's a lot of really great stuff that comes out of it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are legitimately amazing works of art that come out of it.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's going to have to come a time, because the reality, you'd mentioned hentai earlier. Once it was the non-talked about, like, if you were into anime, it was always close by.
Yeah.
But you didn't really talk about it.
Yeah.
And now it's almost interchangeable with some of the series.
Yeah.
It's gotten to a point to where, like I said, it's like an inside joke. It's the meme of it, right? These kids will change. One of the things like you see on like the forums and like the blogs is like kids will change their anime, like their little Zoom avatars. I mean, you see one, if you're talking to someone online and they have an anime avatar, good luck.
Yeah.
For those of you who are listening, do not change your avatar to an anime person. Just don't. Be an adult.
Yeah.
Get a real avatar.
Yeah.
But
it's funny that now we need avatars as adults.
Yeah.
In general.
But it's like they'll pick a character from like a hentai series.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, see, like if you call me on it, you know what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the kind of thing where it's like, all right, kids.
Yeah.
I think it's
I have one of those stories, but I think I'll save it for another day. We'll save it for a little more risque episode, I guess, at some point. But that's before we get into this game that we're gonna play. Let's talk about our experiences at Anime Expo.
Okay.
Because Anime Expo is something that I have here. Anime Expo, the last time I went, when did you and I go? 07, 08, 09, give or take.
A while ago, yeah.
Years ago, right? And then after that, I think I went one more. It was the time where we went 4 days, right? Or I got the 4-day pass, something like that, right?
Yeah.
Where I paid for a day and we got 4-day passes. So, obviously, it can't be a show about anime without a topic of anime without Anime Expo, especially since we live in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah.
Now,
one of my favorite cons for a long time.
Yeah. So Anime Expo it's a convention for anime, right?
The largest anime convention, I think, in North America.
Yes. So now, the reason I want to bring it up is because obviously we have experiences at Anime Expo, but one of the things that I remember about AX is the fact that at some point, let's just say you and I went in 2008, 2009. Let's just say we went in 09. Right?
Okay.
Because I was after the celebration. Before the one in LA. So, do you remember? I remember you telling me, "Hey, I'm going to AX. Do you want to go?" I said, "Sure. I don't have a pass. You can get one there." Cool. I don't know if you remember, but we walked right in. I bought my pass and walked right into the convention. Yeah. We spent the whole day at the con. I think we watched some cool stuff. We did a bunch of stuff. I think I went 2 days later, something like that. I didn't go all 4 days. I went like 2 or 3 days. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because you compare 2009 to like 2015, and it is humongous, right? It is, like you said, the biggest anime convention in North America.
Yeah.
I remember we could just walk in the same day. And now you have to go 2-3 blocks outside just to get into the fucking thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's huge.
It's huge. And so that's where I go. I'm going back to like the concept of mainstream now, which is, I think, is a great thing. I think anything that becomes mainstream is great for this small niche of fans. But then you also have your purists, right, who just hate the concept of like everybody watches what I watch sort of thing.
Right.
But then at the same time, how can you complain? Because now you have 50 new animes every quarter, right?
Yeah, I mean,
so it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know?
Yeah, and I get what you mean, and it is definitely a thing where it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it started to. I always liked Anime Expo because it was unlike Comic-Con. where there's a lot of tourists that go who are really not into comics. Or
Yep.
going. Anime Expo is
because Comic-Con, I'm sorry to cut you off, but Comic-Con has not just comics anymore. Remember?
Oh, yeah.
It has a section for movies, a section for television, for even anime, for everything.
It's got everything.
It's got everything now. It's just the largest con in general. Yeah.
But Anime Expo, you would go because you were into that scene, right?
They would have showings of anime movies all night till like 3-4 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I mean it was like a big convention, right? They'd have parties, they'd do the whole thing. But no one went to that as like a tourist just because it was a thing to do.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to see any famous people.
Nope.
For any normal person, right?
Yeah.
It was for the fans. But even that has started to get some of that. I remember the last year I went, I think it was 2016. And one of the things is like cosplay, right? If you are a girl that's going to cosplay as an anime character, some of them, goddamn, you are a brave fucking person.
Yeah.
Because you're walking around basically like in no clothes.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the first year where they had to issue like a thing because some guys were being creeps and like sneaking cameras in places and doing shit. And I remember thinking like at that point, like, oh shit, this is where the bros come in and start fucking everything up.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, it's a weird thing. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. And I definitely think that if you want to get into it, there was a great, I think it was a College Humor cartoon where they talked about how like it had like these two anime fans. It was like a Dragon Ball Z style fight.
Yeah.
And at the end, like it was like, I'm new to anime. I want to watch something. What should I watch? And at the end, after these two nerds kind of have it out, the normies were like, oh, I get it. Anime is great. It's just its fans that suck. And it's like, yeah, that's basically what it is. And because these fans are now embracing the degeneracy, I feel like the creators of anime are like, how far can we take this?
Yes.
How much without shame are you at this point?
I just picture them with Dr. Evil and his whole all of his evil minions in International Man of Mystery when he's laughing, and they're doing that evil laugh and they're laughing for like 10 minutes, right? But the camera never cuts away, and then they just start. I'm assuming that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
Like, how are we gonna do this? And they're just laughing like that. Yeah. I don't know why that made me laugh. I'm so stupid. Yeah.
This is a good one, man. Do you want to play this game real quick?
Let's play the game.
So this is another thing that anime has been doing weird. Is it's really big getting kind of its titles are now getting out of control.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you a title.
Okay.
You tell me if you think this is an actual show or if I just made this
up. An actual show?
So, yeah, an actual show.
Oh.
Ready?
Uh-huh.
First one.
Okay.
Is it wrong to try to pick up girls in a dungeon?
That seems like it would be an episode. Like an actual show. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say show.
Actual
show. Show or no show? Okay.
Actual show.
Okay.
I became a guru gayo, so I fucked my best friend.
That's a no show?
That's an actual show.
Okay.
I looked that up because it was one of the, when you see a title like that.
Yeah. Do you know what the premise is?
Here's what it is. Two bros are best friends. One of them turns into a girl, the other one fucks him.
Huh.
And now that guy's in love with the girl version of his best friend. To show, someone came up with that idea, decided to animate it and make it a thing.
Interesting. That actually sounds interesting, though. I'm sorry. That actually sounds
now that
like...
came up.
Yeah.
That came up on like normal anime. That's got to be hentai, right? It's got to be porn.
Yeah, I think so.
It's got to be. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no way.
And this is why I'm feeling it's getting out of control. So this next one, tell me if you think. Well, now you know. Interspecies reviewers.
Show?
It's a show.
Okay.
Okay. And this is where it really started to get out of control because you'd see like, dude, this is being marketed as a show, but it's hentai. Like that's what it is.
Okay.
Because the premise of the show, it's a medieval setting. It's like 4 guys, and they basically review brothels that specialize in various different species of things.
Huh. Okay, I'd rather watch the other one.
Right?
Yeah. If I were to pick one, I guess I'd go with that one.
Here's another one. So I'm a spider. So what?
I'm just gonna say these are all shows.
That's a show.
Okay.
The time I got reincarnated as a slime.
That's a show?
That's a show.
Okay.
So as you can see, man, it's getting weird out there.
Yeah.
It's a weird hobby to have.
I thought The Devil Was a Part-Timer was a weird name. And I guess it's not.
It's not, man. Yeah. These are starting to just get... Compared to what I grew up with, which was Akira, Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Even like Ranma 1/2, which kind of borderlined on some of that. Like, there was a lot of nudity in that show. But it was nothing like what's going on now, man.
Yeah, I agree
It's a weird time to be into this thing.
But it's also a great time to be into this because outside of the quirky ones that you just talked about, and I'm being gentle by saying quirky,
yeah, well,
is the fact that there's so much out there to consume now, right? Like we're not here to like bash. I'm not here to bash on anime because I do like some anime.
Yeah,
and obviously I know that you like anime too. It's just. I guess what I'm trying to say is there is a niche for everyone within a niche.
Here's what I'm gonna tell the kids, especially you getting out there, you're on that social media, okay? Do not be that guy where you're gonna go get a job and they're gonna look through your social media history and you're commenting on and you're posting pictures of anime, like half naked anime girls. You do not want to be that guy.
Yeah.
Just for the love of God.
Yeah.
Have some self-respect and just kind of move on. And the other thing I wanted to say, one of the things about anime that I think is really awesome, I'm going to use Naruto as an example, right?
Okay. Naruto was huge.
Dude, it still is, right?
Yeah.
If you are someone that like falls in love with something, right? Like let's use you and I in like Star Wars. If you had an opportunity to live in a world where there was as much Star Wars as there was Naruto, you'd probably take that.
Yeah.
You're talking about an anime that I think had like 700 episodes, a sequel series that I think is on episode 400 now, that's a direct sequel to the first one.
Yeah.
Like, you could live in that world and never leave.
Yeah.
And
there's a ramen place by my school, well, my old school here, the community college I used to go to, called I think it's not Ramen Naruto or Naruto Ramen, something like that.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's not too bad actually. It's pretty good. I mean, but there's like Naruto things everywhere. It's
It's huge, right? Like people love it.
Yep.
So I mean, and there are a lot of like there's all the like One Piece has like over 1,000 episodes.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
It's getting up there.
It's getting up there. Yeah. It's starting to grow.
So it's just it's a weird world to be living in. But you're right. It is great to have it.
Yeah.
Finally, access to all that too.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of great to have it in access, why don't we go into our picks for some of the animes that we recommend, or maybe they've already seen, or things that they should rewatch.
All right.
So why don't you go ahead first?
Okay. So here are the animes that I watched that kind of got me into. So if you have not seen Akira, take some time to go watch that.
That was going to be on my list, but you got there before I did.
Sorry.
Yes.
Akira is just one of the most beautifully animated movies I've ever seen.
Yep.
So if you get a chance, watch that. Watch Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah.
Another just great anime out of the 90s. Like you see a lot of the Matrix, cyberpunk stuff in that. Jinro, the Wolf Brigade was another great one. And if you want a slice of life anime that does not make you feel creepy, watch a show called Nichijou. It was one of my favorite animes that I got into way later. It had been over. But Nichijou is fucking hilarious.
Okay. I'm going to have to check that one out. I never watched that one. It's hard to find a good slice of life one, too. Yeah.
That and Azumanga Daioh are two of the better ones.
Yeah. Okay, let's just check that out. For me, I've spoken about it earlier. It's The Devil Is a Part-Timer, where it's probably... That one's actually really good. I really enjoyed that one. It's really funny, too. Samurai 7 is one of those... I think it only lasted a season. I thought it was great. I enjoyed Samurai 7 a lot. I actually bought that on DVD at the time. That's actually how I because back in the day we had to rent DVD animes, right, at times, and so that's
that was one of the things that made it so hard to find, and you could not find it anywhere.
Yep. Yeah. Orbit Comics was the only place you can rent anime.
Well, so
Orbit Comics, and there's one up the street over here too that I remember we used to be able to rent anime there.
So for me, I got very lucky in that I lived down the street from a video store that was owned by two Japanese guys, and they would carry anime.
That's awesome.
And that's how I got into my I was my anime pirating when I was in middle school.
Ah, solid. I got another one. Death Note. I think Death Note at this point is probably the most popular anime.
I think it's
you've had 3 live action films in Japan.
Yeah,
and then you had the one on Netflix.
You had an American, which is a big controversy when Americans remake an anime.
Yes, yeah. That's one of my favorites. That's one of those. Every person that I've showed Death Note to has fallen in love with Death Note. That's a great one. And obviously Sailor Moon is one thing that I grew up on Sailor Moon as a kid. Actually, I think you were the one that got me watching Sailor Moon as a kid.
I think I got
so.
You
yeah, I think that was you because all I was watching at the time was Dragon Ball, and then I told you that I never wanted to watch because Sailor Moon was after or before, and you told me to give it a shot, and I loved it. Now, Sailor Moon Crystal's not my thing, but I do like the original Sailor Moon. I enjoy it a lot.
It definitely is one of those series that I think gets kind of buried.
Yeah.
Because it has become kind of a cliche.
Yes.
But it really was pretty groundbreaking in a lot of ways in terms of just females being empowered. In the late 80s, it featured lesbian characters, which had never been seen in a cartoon before.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, in the American dub, they made them cousins, and it made it really awkward. But people died. It was an intense show.
Yeah. Interesting. Any final thoughts on today's topic before we head over to? We don't even have a wind down today, do we?
I got some stuff we can talk about.
Okay, cool. Sorry, we didn't talk about that's one of the things that I've noticed we don't do sometimes. We forget about the wind down.
Sometimes it happens.
It happens to the best of us. It happens to the best of us.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, but do you have any final thoughts on today's awesome topic before we head over to the wind down?
Look, guys, don't let... Again, there's a lot of good anime out there. Find what floats your boat. If you don't feel comfortable watching it, just turn it off.
Yeah.
But please do not let some of these fans scare you away.
Yep.
Just it can be a beautiful thing.
Yep.
Just ignore some of those.
Yeah, and well said. But what I think is there's always going to be purists for anything. And don't let those guys or those people get in the way of something that you enjoy.
Right.
If you like something, just enjoy it. One of the biggest controversies that I think we have, because we have people that we know who are quote unquote Star Wars purists, for example, it's like, let it go.
Yeah.
Just let it go.
Let it go.
And enjoy what you have now, because 30 years ago you didn't have more than just those 3 films.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Those 3 films are beautifully made, but guess what? They've made a lot more beautiful stuff since.
Yeah. Totally.
You don't have to like everything.
Right.
But just enjoy it.
Enjoy
it while you got it. Right? Enjoy it while you got it. This is a good one, man. I enjoyed it. This is a good topic. I appreciate the topic. Makes me want to go watch some more anime when we're done with the show.
Event? Yep. We're gonna have I got some stuff to catch up on.
Yeah, sounds good. Why don't we head over to our final segment of the night, which is the wind down, where we talk about headlines that we found interesting and that we want to talk about.
Okay. So, I think we had talked about this on our reboots episode. Okay, couple of weeks ago.
If you guys haven't heard it yet, you go to our backlog and it's there. Go to halfstepdownpod.com and you will find that there.
I'm actually really excited for this one.
Okay.
We talked about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles needing a decent reboot. Okay.
Okay.
Seth Rogen is now the creative person in charge of a CGI reboot in 2023.
I am so excited.
I am
perfect. Pumped. When you just said Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all I did was smile. I wish we recorded this visually so you can see the smile on my face right now. I am so ready for that.
Again, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Near and dear.
Very important series for a lot of people.
Very important.
And honestly, So like Seth Rogen, I think he does a really good stuff for producing. Did you ever see that Green Hornet movie?
I did.
It was not bad.
It wasn't bad.
I think the Green Hornet's just a hard character to do.
I think so too.
But I'm excited for a CG. I think he's got the right mix of humor and kind of like action oriented to make it something cool.
Yes, I'm very excited for that. I am very. I'm really, really excited for that. What I do have a question for you though. Do you still have any sort of Ninja Turtle? Any sort of like Ninja Turtle memorabilia or like toys or anything that you still have from as a kid, or like anything as a kid? I have one thing that I have stuff now. As I grew up, I bought other things. Mm-hmm. There's actually two things in my collection that I still hold near and dear to my heart. So do you have any?
Yeah, I have the four turtles, the Kenner figures.
Yeah, but the Playmate ones. But you bought those. You bought those when you got older.
Oh, I mean, did I still have them as a kid?
Yeah, as a kid. Yeah.
Oh, I don't think so, man.
I
think all that stuff got wrecked.
I have one thing.
What is that?
It is a Ninja Turtles Christmas ornament.
Nice.
Every year, when my mom decorates her Christmas tree, my mom and dad decorate the Christmas tree, I go, "Where is my Ninja Turtle ornament?"
Nice.
And they're like, "It's in the box." I said, "We gotta hang this thing." Until this day, and I remember telling my mom a long time ago, said, "Hey, Mom, don't ever lose that thing because I'm taking it with me." You know, when I was younger, it's like I'm taking it with me wherever I go. That thing's going on my Christmas tree. So I still have that. That's the only thing that I still have as a kid. Growing up, I have the Hyperstone Heist for the Sega Genesis. That's one that I bought recently for the Genesis because I don't have that game anymore. That's like near and dear to my heart too. And I have Michelangelo as the Playmate figure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I still need I want to get the original 10.
Yeah, that would be cool, man.
Yeah, that would be cool.
All right. You ready for this one?
Yes.
This one
I feel we should just end it there.
We should just end it there.
That was like
because
that's just an amazing moment in our lives right now.
This one, I'm excited.
Okay.
But trepidatious. Here's why.
Okay.
You've got Sam Raimi on board.
Okay.
You've got Bruce Campbell on board.
Are you just making me happy?
Wait.
Are you making me happy again? Okay.
Evil Dead reboot.
Uh-huh.
Not starring Bruce Campbell. He's just going to produce.
Another Evil Dead reboot?
They're basically... It's called Evil Dead. Evil Dead Will Rise. It's going to be an HBO Max. I think it's an HBO Max movie.
I'm ready.
I don't know if this is a sequel to the movie that came out.
Could be. Could be.
It says here it sounds something between a reboot and a sequel, kind of like Evil Dead 2 was to Evil Dead 1.
Yeah. We had a conversation about that, and I still think Evil Dead 2 was a sequel to the first one.
But I understand it says 2, but it's just the same story.
Yeah, it is.
It's literally the same exact movie with better production.
Yeah.
So
Soundtrack
we're going to see where this is.
Yeah.
But I'm excited.
Absolutely.
I think you can do it.
Yeah. They did it. They did it back in, what was it, 2009? Or how long ago was it?
That was a while back.
Great.
But it was great.
That was great. Yeah.
I mean, again, like...
The chainsaw scene was the best.
Yeah.
When she just shoves that thing right through that dude's... Boom, right in through his throat. That was awesome.
And
right? Is that it? Because she shoves the chainsaw through his mouth into the back of his head, right?
Yeah.
That was great.
And let's end it with one more reboot.
Okay.
That it just makes sense.
Sure.
Rob Zombie is directing a Monsters movie.
Oh, dude, I'm set.
I'm set for that, right?
I'm ready for that.
If there's anyone that can do that, it's
Rob Zombie.
Rob Zombie is basically a monster.
I think Universal should just give Rob Zombie like creative control over just making a remix of the monster movie.
He has talked on so many podcasts about how like when he made House of a Thousand Corpses, how like no one at Universal even wanted to give him the time of day.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was there the other day and there's a fucking maze for the movie that they didn't want to make.
Yeah.
And it's like its own big fucking franchise.
Yeah.
I never saw the Devil's... I saw
House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects.
What's the third one called? Three from Hell. I haven't seen Three
that
from
one.
Hell.
I never watched.
I got to get to that
Shayla loves House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects.
Yeah. Those are
actually,
great.
I don't know if she likes the Rejects, but I know she likes House of a Thousand Corpses. And she's been asking me to watch it. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. But we just never have time to sit down and watch a flick. Yeah.
It's starring overweight Chris Hardwick.
Ah.
Back when he was still drinking and doing his thing, he was in that movie because Rob Zombie and him are friends.
Oh, and House of a Thousand Corpses.
Yeah.
Oh. Chris Hardwick was overweight at some point?
Oh, yeah, you don't know the whole thing?
No.
So Chris Hardwick was like an alcoholic. He talks about it all the time. Like for years after Singled Out, he was just kind of like this floundering comedian.
Yeah.
He said he would drink like 10 beers and, like, he was just always drunk.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. Okay.
And then one day he's just like, dude, I got to stop drinking. I got to get my life together. That's when he started
The Nerdist.
like working out. He started Nerdist. And now he's his own like institution. You know what I mean?
Oh, interesting.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I never noticed that. I remember Singled Out. He's old, huh? Not old. I shouldn't say that, but he's older.
He's older.
Yeah, he's older.
He's
yeah.
older.
He looks good for his age. I remember. I could have sworn he was doing the that show on Comedy Central.
Yes.
Yeah.
At midnight.
At midnight. Yeah, he looked. I was like, dude, there's no way that guy's in his 50s. Like, he looked good for his age.
I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna see how
How old is Chris Hardwick?
Chris Hardwick is 49.
Oh, okay, 49. So not bad. It's
Not
young.
bad.
That's young. Yeah.
I
guess I just assumed he was older. I guess. Yeah.
He's a good dude. He's a
He
good
is
man,
a good dude.
Chris Hardwick.
That Chris. I'm on a first name basis with Chris.
Are you?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Sometimes I'll call him what's up, CH, because of his first and last name.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Got onto that one.
Yeah. Good. I wasn't sure if you did because you gave me this look
I
like
caught
you
it.
weren't. Okay. This is a good one, Jose.
This is a good one.
I
All right.
appreciate it. Thank you so much for spending some time here with me to talk about anime, and hopefully we got some awesome stuff coming up in the next handful of weeks. I'm really excited.
Yeah, I'm
We have
excited.
a guest coming up on the show. Very excited for that. So hopefully everybody will stick around and listen to that. But before we go, don't we have some plugs?
We got some plugs, guys. All right. halfstepdownpod.com. Make sure you go there. It's your one-stop shop for all things Half Step Down. If you're on Instagram and Twitter, at halfstepdownpod, we have both made a commitment to post more.
Yes.
It's happening.
Yes. I started already.
Check
Kudos to
out
me.
our Instagram stories, because I have a list of songs I'm adding in the playlist. I see that you've added a list of songs.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to start previewing those on the old story, so make
Nice.
sure you keep an eye on that.
Yes.
YouTube.com, search up Half Step Down Pod. We are on the road to 100. 100 subscribers. We can get a custom URL. That would be really nice for us.
Because it's actually kind of hard sometimes to find, because you got to scroll down.
You got to scroll down quite
a bit
a
of
way.
ways to find the channel.
Yeah,
If
it
we
is
can
there.
hit that, yes,
It is there.
So just type in Half Step Down Pod and then just scroll just a tiny bit, and you will find us there. You'll find the channel there with the logo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you like what you hear, please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. And don't forget to help spread the word. Use hashtag HalfStepDownPod. And then coming in fall, once again, TitanRadio.org or Half Step Down Radio.
That's right. And make sure you guys go follow at Simpin4Nissa on TikTok. He makes awesome Magic the Gathering content and anime content as well on there. Thank you so much for spending some time with me, Ray, for giving me an awesome interview so we can talk about some anime. I really appreciate that. Give him a quick little shout out. Jose, this was great, man. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful night, and everybody take care. We'll see you soon.
Yep.
Yeah, give it up for these guys. I promise you guys.
Just so we're all clear, that was not like a real song. Okay. I made that up.